Welcome back to your class on memory management. So in the previous classes we had discussed about your memory allocation technique. We had completed discussing about your contiguous storage allocation, and we had started the discussion of your non-contiguous storage allocation, in which we had started discussing about your paging technique. So we saw what was your paging technique, where the memory was divided into pages, where we have the logical memory that is divided into pages and the physical memory is divided into frames. And we also saw to the hardware structure, where logical address is mapped to the physical address with the help of the page table. Now probably in today's class we will look into more of the page table and the other non-contiguous memory, that is your segmentation. Now let us look into the implementation of this page table. So last class we had seen this logical address is converted into the physical address with the help of this page table. Now, where am I storing this page table? Definitely, the page table also would be stored in the main memory. Now, if this page table is a part of main memory, then see, you can see here is my actual data that is sitting that I want to access. Now either it is a data or there is an instruction that is sitting in the main memory. For me to get access of this data, I shall be making two access, that is one access to the page table and second access would be to my actual memory. So we have already seen earlier when we started with your memory management, when compared to the speed of the CPU and the CPU registers, main memory is a little slower when compared to that, and we spoke about your cache memory. Similarly, here also, for every memory access I will have to make two accesses, which is definitely there is an added delay that is possible. So to resolve this problem, we are using another cache memory, that is your translation look-aside buffer. Now what will this translation look-aside buffer do? Firstly, what is the translation look-aside buffer? As told, it is a hardware cache which is faster than the main memory, and it also consists, again, the translation look-aside buffer consists of two entries, the key and the value. So when the associated memory is present and the item is found that matches the key, then the key is returned. That is how a translation look-aside buffer is. But here, what is our key and value? We have the page number and the frame number. So when a logical address is generated by the CPU, now that page number, we check if that page number is present in the TLB. If the page number is present, we call it a TLB hit, and immediately the frame number is got and we are able to derive your physical address. Now, if the page number is not found in the TLB, it is probably a TLB miss. Then the page number shall be found in a traditional way, that is by looking up to the page table. So we look up to the page table and then again the frame number is obtained and then the physical address is determined. So now what is happening? What is the problem that we told previously? We told if I just mask off, or if I just consider that there was no TLB, so there was a logical address that was generated, and this logical address I'm making my first main memory access to the page table and then to the actual frame or the physical address. So this was ending up with 2 accesses for every memory location. Now what is happening? I am making a single access to the main memory. If it is a TLB hit, so I will be making one access to the cache memory, that is your TLB, and the other access will be to my main memory. So by nature, the cache is faster than the main memory. Now, talking a little more about your TLB hit. Now the percentage of times a particular page number is found in the TLB, we call that as a hit ratio, and we should make sure that the hit ratio is always higher than the miss ratio. So to increase the hit ratio, we try to accommodate as many page numbers as possible in the TLB. Now the TLB, you can notice here, it is again a limited storage that we have. If the TLB is full, probably the OS must select one of the page numbers that could be removed, or one of the page numbers where we could make a replacement for a new entry in the TLB. So definitely it is giving us a faster access, but the disadvantage associated is, again, cache by nature is expensive. Now let us see how do we calculate the effective access time. Now what do I mean by effective access time is, I am telling on an average what could be an access time to the data. Now consider this scenario where I have the hit ratio to be 80% and it is taking 20 nanoseconds to search in the TLB. So it is going to search in the TLB for the entry. It is taking 20 nanoseconds and 100 nanoseconds to access the data in the memory. So this is the 100 nanoseconds to access the data. So if I am saying 80% is my hit ratio, then definitely 20% is my miss ratio. Now why is it 220? Because there are 2 memory access that I am doing in case of a miss ratio. That is, first memory access is to find the frame number that is in the page table, and the second memory access is my actual data or the instruction. That is why in case of a miss ratio, the time that is taken would be 220 nanoseconds. In case of a hit ratio, the time taken would be 120 nanoseconds, including the search in the TLB. So what is my effective access time? It would come up to 140 nanoseconds. If at all there are asked small problems about it, so you may be given the hit ratio or you may be given only the miss ratio. The counterpart is what you will have to find out, and you will have to remember to consider this. Now why is, again I repeat, why is this 220? It is first going to search in the TLB, so that 20 nanoseconds is also spent. It is going to make a memory access, that is your page table, 100 nanosecond is spent. Again after that it is going to make an access of the frame in the main memory. So another is coming up to a value of 220 nanoseconds. and the EAT, that is your effective access time, comes to 140 nanoseconds. The next thing that we have is about your memory protection. So yesterday I had probably sent some images in the class group. So one of the image talks about various other information a page table can have other than the page frame number. That is, if you remember an image which has multiple boxes, which has present, absent, protection, modify, referenced, cache disabled. So these are the various fields that is possible, but here probably we are addressing only to protection. So what is the memory protection that we are addressing to here? Now when we started with the example of your paging, we said each process could be allocated with a set of pages, and these pages is further mapped into the frame. Now if I say process 1 is allocated a page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the process 1 should be accessing only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if process 1 tries to access any other page, that shall be indicated by this valid and invalid bit. So that is the memory protection implementation by the protection bit. As I discussed, there are other various bit fields that we have, but pertaining to the curriculum, we shall discuss only about your protection bit. So here the protection bit is used to say if the logical address space to a particular process is valid or invalid, or to tell it better, the process is accessing a legal page or an illegal page. When do I say it is a legal page? If the page that is allocated to that process, if it is using or accessing that page, it could be a legal action, else it is a illegal action. So it is actually intervening or interfering to another process logical address space. To illustrate the same, so if I say there is a process, so you can see a set of page numbers here. So there are 6 pages that is allocated to this process. So in the page table, so previously we saw only the page number and the frame number. To that, an additional field is this protection bit, that is valid and invalid. So you can see, so page 0 is valid, page 1 is valid, page 2 is valid, page 3 is valid, page 4 is valid, page 5 is valid. These are the 6 pages 0 to 5 that is allocated to one process, whereas page 6 and page 7 it is indicated as invalid because that does not fall to this process logical address space. So that is about your protection bit. The next thing that we have is about the page table structure. Now we have seen what is a page table, what is the purpose of the page table, and we have addressed to the issue we have addressing the page table, how is it resolved. We have discussed about what is the additional protection or the additional bit fields that we can have in the page table. The next thing that we are addressing is to the page table structure, which defines how we could be managing and maintaining the page table in the system. So there are 3 methods to do the same, that is hierarchical paging, hashed page table and inverted page table. We will look into detail each one of it. The first one we have is your hierarchical page table. So what is about your hierarchical page table? So it is a paging scheme which may contain two or more levels of the page table in a hierarchical fashion. So the entries of level 1 is referring or a pointer to the page table in level 2, and the page table 2 will have an entries which is a pointer or reference to the page table 3, and so on and so forth. It can go up to many levels. So the last level page table is the one that stores the actual information about your frame. So here what is happening? The page table itself will be paged in another page table. So according to the curriculum, this is just an illustration. So according to the curriculum, we have only 2-level page table where we are going to see it only to 2 levels. Now why is that we are breaking these page tables? Now let me give you a more simplified example. Now whenever I have to search, so in the page table I have to search for a particular page and its associated frame. If there are entries and the page table gets too long, even my search time also will be too long. Now let me take an example like this. I have 150 students of 4th semester. Now I am putting into 3 sections, section A, section B, section C. Now if I have to call the student with say roll number 54. Now if I had all these 150 students in the same room, probably I will have to go searching for 153 records to get the 154th candidate. Now when I am dividing into multiple levels or when I am doing it to different sections, I will look into which section he is. Okay, he is in the section B, so he is there. I am able to get it at the 4th time itself. So my number of search is also reduced and it is well maintained rather than putting up all in one. So it is difficult to maintain the page table when it gets very long. So that is when it is broken into the hierarchical pages or different level of pages. Now looking up to a 2-level page table, as I had discussed there, so the logical address would be something like this. It would contain the outer page table and then so this is the outer page table which will contains the entries of this inner page table. So this is the actual page table that we were seeing all this time. When this page table gets too long, we have created a reference of that in another page table. So now each of the table is again paged and that reference will be created in another page table. So your logical address would be something like this. So I have already yesterday sent you the details in the class group where I have discussed about what is a logical address space, what is a physical address space, so how is that mapping happening and what are the logistics that they are taking to do the same. So your logical address for your hierarchical paging would be something like this. Because it is 2-level, so you have P1 and P2. If there are multiple levels, it again proceeds. So your P1 gives the outer page table reference and then by that you will be getting your P2, that is the inner page table reference, which will actually give also contain the frame and then with your offset. So this is about your hierarchical page table. The next page table structure we have is the hashed page table. Now The hashed page table is usually used for the address space that is larger than 32 bits. Students, I insist you to go through the material. Yesterday I have sent it in the class group. You get a clarity of what is address, number of bits to the address, and what is addressing. Now in the last page table structure that we saw, that is your hierarchical page table, we took an example of a typical 32-bit. For a 32-bit structure itself, it was going to 2 levels. Now if I want a 64-bit address to be mapped to a page table, it may go to multiple levels. Now when there are ideal level of hierarchical paging is 2. If the number of levels increases, eventually it will be treated inefficient. Again, getting back to the problem that we started the class, that is the memory access. More the number of levels in your hierarchical pages, there will be more the number of access also that is going to happen. So to resolve the same, so it is not ideal to use hierarchical paging for your larger logic, for your larger address space. So we use your hashed page table, which uses your hash function, and it uses a method of chaining which eventually reduces the excessive page table and also makes the search faster. Now let us see what does your hashed page table have. Now previously we had the page table, here we have your hash table. So how does the hashed page table work? So the page number that we have, we run it with a hash function which is going to generate a hash value. Now every entry in the hash table contains multiple entries. So this single entry is almost making up one small page table itself. Now notice here, so each entry has 3 fields. One is the virtual page number, the other one is the value of the mapped page frame, and then it is a link to the next entry. So every entry in the page table can be treated as a mini page table because of this chaining mechanism. So it can store many more entries, and it is also saving the memory and the search. So here we are using the linked list to implement the same. So what happens? The logical address has the logical page number that will be hashed into the page table by running the hash function. Now this virtual page number is compared with the first element in the linked list. If there is a match of the corresponding page frame that is found, then probably it gives the frame that we are looking for. If there is no match found, probably it will go searching to the other entries in the linked list. So this is how is your hashed page table works. So as I told, it simplifies your page table search and also the excessive use of the memory. So the last page table structure we have is your inverted page table. So inverted page table was an approach to one of the methodologies. There was also another method that was proposed to have an individual page table for every process. So in a system, if there are n number of process, there could be n number of page tables. Now, the process that is executing also should be in the main memory. The process page table should also be in the main memory. Now, if the process size is very large, eventually the page table size is also very large. So this was not an ideal solution or a method that was proposed. So alternative to that, the method that was proposed is your inverted page table. So in the inverted page table, we will have an additional information in the page table about a process, that is the process ID. So each page table or the logical address contains 3 entries, that is the process ID, the page number and the offset. So what happens in the inverted page table? The CPU generates the logical address, and now here the logical address constitutes of 3 things, and now using this logical address, it will search for the appropriate process ID and that page number. Now if the search is found, at the ith location, that ith value with the offset will give the physical address. If there is no match found, probably it will be treated as an illegal address. Now I told this is an alternative approach to the method that I discussed. If there was a method that was used to have a separate page table for every process, that would be very tedious and it would have used a lot of memory. So alternating to that, they just thought of adding a information, that is the process ID. So this is about your inverted page table. That also completes the 3 different page table structures that we discussed. The next and the last thing that we have about your pages is shared pages. Now what is the concept of your shared pages? If there is a content or a code that could be shared by multiple processes, rather than each process owning a separate page, it could be shared by all the process, maintaining it in a single location. Now let me just illustrate the same. Now let me say there are 3 processes. Now the 3 process has its own data or the code that is pertaining to that process or program. Now these process may have 3 libraries that is common. Fine. I am naming these libraries as ED1, ED2 and ED3. All the 3 processes are going to use these 3 libraries. Now if I did not have this shared page mechanism, it is the same content, there is no change. If each process has to own that content, probably I would have wasted 9 pages. Eventually 9 frames that is going to map. So what are we doing here? The shared content would be kept in one common location, and that is shared by all the processes. Whereas the private content that is pertaining to that process shall be allocated a new page. Now if I say process P1 is having a private code or content of data 1, and ED1, ED2 and ED3 is a shared content. So that is mapped to the single location. You can see here ED1 is at page is in the page table entry 3, 4 and 6 of that is at the frame number 3, 4 and 6. So that is the same data in every page table. So there is a single entry of your ED1, ED2, ED3. So this data will be shared by all the processes. The private data or the new exclusive data that is there about a process shall be allocated with the new page. So this will also be sharing, the sharing allows also to be saving the main memory. Rather than each process owning a copy of itself, it could be shared by multiple processes. So that is about your shared page mechanism. The next concept that we have is about segmentation. Segmentation again falls under the category of your non-contiguous memory allocation. So here segmentation provides a mechanism which gives the user view of the program. Now, what is the user view of the program? If I ask any user who doesn't know the background details of the operating system or your system software, and I ask him how the program is stored, he would see each module or each segment stored in different locations. The same happens here. Now your program could be divided into different chunks. Definitely one chunk is not of the same size as the other. Now if I ask you to write a program with multiple functions, procedures and libraries, now the size of one function is not the same size of the other function. So let us just look into how it is. Now this is what it looks like. Now your program may have a main memory, a subroutine, a stack, symbol table, square root, each one of it with varying size. So that is varying size is unevenly allocated. Whether this uneven allocation was not permitted with your paging as well. So the segmentation gives the user view even which paging could not do it. Though it is non-contiguous, it did not give the liberty of going unevenly. Now again, this is present in the logical address space of a process. When we say logical address space, the CPU and the process could see only to the logical address space. Now that needs to be mapped to the physical address space. Now if I say there are segment 1, 2, 3, 4 that is there in the logical address, it need to be mapped to the physical address. Previously in the paging mechanism, this mapping of logical address to physical address was done by the page table. Here also we have something called as the segment table that helps us to map the logical address to the physical address. So here the logical address contains the segment number and the offset, and the segment table contains the base and the limit. Now what is the base? It contains the starting physical address where the segment is started, and the length talks about how far it is expanded to. What is the size of the segment is determined by the length. We have the segment table base register and segment table length register to store the base and the limit. Now let us see the hardware illustration of how it happens. So we have the CPU that generates the logical address. As discussed earlier, it generates the segment number and the offset, and this segment number is looked for in the segment table. The segment table contains the base and the limit. using this is where it is going to determine the physical address. Now the offset value, if it is not between 0 to the segment limit, then probably it is an illegal operation or it is not the right address that is generated. If the offset is legal, then it is added to the segment base to produce the physical. Next thing that we will see is the illustration of the same. So we started with this image of different segments. Now the same is represented with numbers of memory. So I have segment 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 segments. So you can see the segment table. I have the segment number, the base and the limit, that is the starting address and the length of the segment. So segment 0, I have the starting address is 1400 and you can see, notice it is spanning up to 1000. So my range is 1400 to 2400. Then I have segment 1, which is starting at 6300 and its length is 400. So the range of segment 1 is 6300 to 6700. Eventually for your segment 2, 3 and 4. So this is giving us a dynamic and an uneven location of memory. So that completes your chapter about memory management. Thank you, students.